Hello everyone. Let me give you a little bit idea about this video, and as in why should you even watch that video, and let me motivate you a little bit so that you can watch this entire video from scratch to end. All right. So hi, my name is Ajamina, and I am creating this video for revision purpose. So the idea is that in this video we will cover everything from basic to advanced, so that if you can answer most of these questions, as in why should you even watch the video, the reason you should watch this video is if you can answer most of these questions, like around 80-90% of them, then you should feel confident to go into your next interviews. That's the reason you should watch it, because I didn't try to explain you everything. Instead, what we did was we take the problem, like for example, in a real interview session, like for example, interviewer will ask you a question like, "Hey, explain prototype, explain promise, explain asynchronous JavaScript," something like that. And then I try to explain you in that way, so that you can kind of get the feel like how. And also, I gave you some tips also inside that video. Okay, so that's why you should watch the video, and you should watch this video from like the beginning to the end. And sometimes you might feel like, you know what, you know the answer of this problem, like for example, whatever the question that I will ask you in the video, and then I try to give you answer. So you might feel like, I know the answer, so you try to skip that part and like move to the next. Instead of, I don't want you to do that, because I promise you there will be some topic like, object oriented prototypes and event loops and these constructor functions. You will learn one or two things new that you didn't know it. I promise you that. So I want you to watch that video entirely. And the way you should watch this video is, there are some rules. Like first is, obviously I'm sure I don't have to tell you that whenever I say question, like for example, if I say okay, explain promise, so I want you to pause that video there, and I want you to think what you are thinking. Like maybe code even in a text editor, code editor, if you want to, and speak out loud, or maybe write the answer. And so that way you can, truly observe what you are learning, and truly can check. Otherwise, you know what will happen if you watch this video, even if you watch this video half uh, interest, then what will happen is that you will just not feel confident again, and you will end up at the same place, the web place you were before watching that video. So I don't want you to do that. Instead, I want you to feel confident after that video, that you don't have to watch any other video. All right. So remember, watch the video entirely, and whenever I say question, I want you to pause the video. I want you to answer on your own, in your own language, and then watch my explanation. You will learn one or two things. And last thing is, whatever you think about this video, whether you like it or what, you dislike it, or whatever your opinion is, like what can I improve in this video, maybe what topic you wanted me to explain to you, whatever that is, write down in the comment section. I will read and I will make a video. So yeah, that's it about this video, and let's try to revise the JavaScript. Okay, so let's go. Hello everyone. So let's start from the basics. Okay, so first we will talk about variables. What are variables? Well, variables are very simple, and they store values for us. They store data for us. And there are certain ways we can make variables. We can use var keyword, uh, name, and we can store the value like this, Ajay. And we can also do let name Ajay. This is also varied. We can say const also. The only difference is this, that when we write the name using let, we can change it to Vijay, and it will be absolutely fine. But if we do through const, we cannot change the name value to anything. Like for example, we can't do this Vijay. It will give us error. For example, when I try to log, it will give us error. And the reason is const means constant, which means constant values cannot be changed. Let me run it, node basics, and as you can see, it gives us errors that assignment to constant variable, which is not uh, possible basically. Okay, so that's it, that's the variables. And next thing, we will go into the if else conditions. Before that, let me talk about data types. What are data types, like and how many types of data types we have. So data type meaning what kind of data we have, like whether it's number, string, or what are we dealing with basically. Okay, it's a type of data. Now, how many data types we have? Well, there are two types of primitive and reference. Primitive comes like integer, number, and float, string, boolean, all of this comes into the primitive category. A reference category, array and objects, which we will read in the later section. So they comes into the reference variable. So now let's go to the next thing is if else condition. Conditional statement, basically that what we have to call, and inside that the syntax is simple: if, then condition, and then this curly braces. Inside this bracket, condition comes. So condition could be like condition sun condition could be true or false based on whatever. Okay, and condition, if the condition is true, it will print yes. Otherwise, we can run else here, same else keyword, and then this block will run. So basically, one of the block will run. In this case, this conditional statement comes into the picture, where we want to run some code if certain condition is true. All right. So that is if else statement. We can do multiple also, like we can do else, else if, like this also. Sorry, like this. We can do multiple if else, else if. It will start from the top. Remember, this is very important. If the one of the condition is true, it will not run the later on. Remember that. So it will start checking condition from here. If this condition is true, then it will run only this piece of code. It won't come here on this condition too. It won't even come here. If this is false, then it will go to the next until either else block is done or the code is done. So remember that thing. Now if else condition is done, so now let's come to the loops. What are loops? Well, sometimes we need to do repetitive task. Same task is same, but we need to do it certain times. This is where loops come. As the name suggests, it's loop. So there are main famous loop are for loop and while loop. So the syntax of for loop is very simple. For let I is equal to 0, then I is less than of some length, let's just say I say 5, but we can, it could be anything, and I plus plus, and we do the task here. So this is the syntax. So the interviewer might ask you to write a for loop syntax if you are trying for beginner positions, okay, or they won't. This is for loop. Basically, simply I don't need to explain it to you, because if you have studied, it's a revision, so I hope you know it, right? And second one is while loop. While condition, and this is very important. This needs to be true or false condition, you have to decide. But remember, when you using while loop, don't just run the code. Make sure you know where certain, after certain period, this while loop ends. So you have to make that condition false. So whatever condition you make, remember that this condition needs to be false at certain time. Because if you want, because in for loop what happens is that we know the limit. So this loop will run for certain time, because we will decide decide that limit here. We write that limit here, and this loop will run until that limit is hit. But in while loop, this is not the case. As long as this condition is true, it will keep running. So it's our job inside the loop that we know we make this condition false, so that this loop can end. Okay, so that's a loop. And there are also loop for in loop, for off loop, on objects, and all of these things. We will we will know about them in later on, but you get the idea. Okay, this is the basic questions about loops, and what are loops, and what are the syntax of some famous loops. Now let's come to the array and objects. Array is also data storable, where we store multiple datas, because in variable what we do is we store single data. For example, it could be either name or age. It can be both. If, for example, name, so inside the name it could be name, that's it. It could be Ajay, Vijay, whatever. It can also only store one name. But array are uh, arrays can store multiple values basically. And in other programming language, it only store the same type of data type also. But in the JavaScript, it can store any type of data type. So for example, and the syntax is simple: array, like this is not the syntax. This array, it could be anything because it's just a variable. So it could be like I don't know, numbers, or it could be anything. But I'm just for simplicity using the array. Okay, and this is important. This is array. So this square bracket are the one which make array. Now inside that we can store anything, 1 2 3, and string, j, and false. It could be anything. So this is array. It can store multiple values basically. That's why that's the job of array. And if we log it array, so let's run, and as you can see, it printed entire list. Access for the access we use indexing. So we use that square bracket again, and then we pass the index that we want to access. For example, I want to see that Ajay, only Ajay. I want to access Ajay. So I know it should start from 0. 0 indexing. Arrays are 0 indexing. So 0 1 2 3 on third index is Ajay. So I will pass 3 here, and if I try to log here, I will get Ajay. And as you can see, we get the Ajay. So this way we can get the values, we can access it. And if you want to add, like for example, currently there is false at the end, right? So I want to add certain values, so I can do array dot push. It will push the value into the array in the end. So I can say like vj. So remember, here the false is the last value, but now I have pushed the value vj also, so it will push it in the array at the end. So if I can try console.log array, only just array, so we will see, and as you can see, vj is after the false. We only hard coded till here, and then we pass the vj through this method. So we can add this way, we can delete also. So if I do pop, and you don't have to pass anything here. So if I do pop, it will pop the last value. So last value is false, right? So if this array will be created, then this method will run, and it will pop from the last value. So false should be out from this array. So we should only see 1 2 3 Ajay. So let's see, and as you can see, 1 2 3 Ajay are only presented. These are basic method. There are some method also, slice and splice. Well, the way it works is very simple. For some string, like we want to delete from here to here, we want to access, so we can use slice and splice. All right, and you can read about them more in details, but let's just start. Let's just say I want 2 3 and Ajay. So what I can do is log array dot slice starting number, like for example 0 1 1 2 1 2 3 4. Why I'm passing 4? Because it don't consider the last index. So if I'm passing 4, so it will not, it will only go till 3. So that's why I need to pass 1. And let's see. So as you can see, 2 3 Ajay is come here. Okay, and we can use the splice also. Splice is also similar, but it counts the number. For example, from that string, we, for example, if I do splice here, a splice 1 4, so like it deletes. So basically splice will delete it. So I'm saying starting index is 1 from 2, and I need to from 2 to start, it will go till the count. So if I say 1, so basically what it will do is it will start from the index 1, and it will go till the count. So count is 1, so it will remove 2. So if we see, 2 is removed, and if we log array here, you will not see 2 in that. As you can see, the 2 is not here because it removed. And if I pass 2, so basically what will happen, from the index 1, it will keep going until the count. So there are 2, so basically 2 element will be removed from the array. So now 2 or 3 is removed, and 1 and Ajay both. And the interesting thing is, if you want to add, we can add also, like replacing in, if you want to replace something, that's where splice comes into the picture. So for example, if I do this 4, so what it will do is, at the index of 3, the 4 will become. So let's see, as you can see, 1 4 Ajay. Basically first it deleted 2 and 3, and then from this index to next index, like it will keep checking whatever the value you passed, it will keep adding into the array from that index. So we started from 1, so from the 1 it added 1, sorry 4, because this is 4, and if I passed one more like 5, so it will add 5 at the place of 2 and 3. So as you can see, 2 and 3, 1 deleted 2 element, and then 4 and 5 from this element to this index to next. So 4 or 5, basically we want to add 2 element. So it will start adding from the first index, the index we started deleting. So from 2 to 3. So basically we deleted 2 element and we added 2 element. Okay, so that's why 4 or 5 came at the place of 2 and 3. This is very important in replacing the element. So yeah, that's it about array, and there are more interesting things you can read about array, but basically the interviewer will get the idea. Okay, this person knows what he is talking about. Okay, let's remove this and let's come to the object. Now why do we need object? First of all, well, objects are simply that multiple values we can store, but in the array we had this problem that we need to access through index, and index is not that much descriptive, you can see, right? Because we don't know what index at what this value is representing at what index, because based on index you can't say what is this, right? But that's the problem that object solve, because in object you build the object using key value pairs. Basically, let person, again this person is not anything special, it could be name anything, but I'm just saying for the readability. And these curly brackets is must. Then you type the key, a key could be anything, for example name, and then column, and then the value. Remember, the key should be always in string. Okay, name, age 25, and yes, so that's it. That's an object. But now see, it is more descriptive, because now we know that name meaning it should store the name obviously, and age we know it should store the age. So we can kind of understand the data by just looking at it. All right, and the syntax is very simple. Key should be in a string, then followed by comma, and then the value. Value could be anything. Value could be string and number, and after every comma you can add the new key value pair. All right. Again, if I log it, person, you should see here. You see the object. The how do we access it? Well, there are two ways to access it. Dot method, sorry, dot notation basically, which we call it, where you do the object dot and the key name. So key's name. So we are using the person dot name. So it should print the name, and as you can see, it printed the name. We can do age. So it will do the age. It will print the age basically, and 25 is this. And there is another way of doing it also, which is this array way. In array we you pass this sorry these sorry these square bracket, and inside in a string we pass the key name, so name. So like this. So if the key exists, it will print it. This is also we can, this is how we also can get the values. And if you want to add certain keys, so we can do like we don't have to do anything methods. We can just say, I don't know, I want to add single, and I can say true, sorry, true. And if I log now person, so you will say that single properties will always it gets added into this person. And remember, the way we access, the way we also can add it also. So this dot notation, by using the this dot notation, we can add values also. Now you will see this single property get added. We can add by using like this, but you have to pass it into string, and it will also work the same, as you can see. So this is how we get the value, add the values, and that should be more than enough for from the object. And obviously we will read more about objects in the upcoming video, like in the upcoming series, but that's it for now. Now there is one thing left. Let me clear it. Functions. Well, functions are nothing but a piece of code block which does some operations. Basically it will take the input and it will give us the output, but it's repetitive, meaning the logic stays the same but the input changes. So for that we write function. That's what function does. Functions is nothing but a piece of code which will uh, does the repetitive task basically for us. It takes the input, it gives the output. Now again, And this definition of a function is not written somewhere in the books, like the way I'm saying. It just you can say in multiple ways the same thing. Basically, the idea you should explain into the interview. All right. So obviously, if your interviewer like won't care about the actual definition, it will like, okay, if as long as you can explain them that what you're thinking, because we know that that's what function does. It takes the input, or sometimes it doesn't take the input, but basically the code block, the logic is the same. The input changes only. All right. And based on the input, we calculate the output and we return it. That's it. That's the function. So there are main three ways to write a function in like JavaScript. There are more ways also, but three famous: function declaration, expression, and arrow function. So function declaration like this: function name, and whatever the parameter does. So this is how you can say it. Second one is let func is equal to function. This is called anonymous function. So we store this function into the variable, and we can do it because JavaScript is first class language, or whatever that does that mean. Basically, we can do that. Basically, we can do this thing also, and it will work the same. All right. Basically, this anonymous function we can store it, and you can call it as you would call the normal function that we built the first way. All right. And second function is like this arrow function, like this, and this use the arrow, and the logic stay the same, and you can write the logic here, and again it will, you can call it again the same way that you could call those functions the way we built them. Nothing difference. Arrow function is used in callback mostly, because when we pass the function as an argument into another function, this is called callback function. So that's where we write, because it's simpler and short. So that's where we use most of the time. So yeah, this is how we build functions. You can explain into some like writing some code like some console.log, and you can say this is how we build functions. So basically the idea is what are functions, you have to build them, you know it, how to call them. That's it. That's it. So yeah, that's for the basics, and let's move to the next thing where we will learn little bit advanced thing. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the next question, which could be well, like explain map filter reduce. This is very famous question where you have to explain and use cases and how to use them. Okay. So let's do it. So let me make a array first. Array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This is array method, by the way. So first one is map. So you can say basically that map is a function which will take like each value and do something with it and return a new array. So for example, let's just say we need new array. So what we will do, instead of changing that map, we will do the map on first one. It takes a arrow function which will take num, like first value, and in this num each value will represent first value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. We can do anything with these values. So I can say return num star 2. So basically it will multiply it with 2 each every value. So this array and will return a array which is uh, multiply by 2 on everything. So it will return a new array which is multiplied by 2 to each value. So let's log and see that new array, and we should see. So let's see 2, 4, 6, which is what we said. This is how map work. Okay. And now let's go to the next, which is filter. So now what filter does is filter. What filter does is it takes the each value, do certain operation with it, or if you want to do it whether, and it will also return a new value. But the thing is, it will only keep that value if it returns true. So what do I mean by that? Let's filtered array dot filter filter same num and So now what happens is that if I don't do anything, so basically it will not, it will return empty uh, new array. Now we need to do basically filter is like a filter. We want to filter some value, so we can say something like if num let's just say we want to keep the values. Let me make it bigger, this 5 6 7. So I want to keep the values only which is greater than 3. I let this say, so basically 4 5 6 7 will be passed. So if I do that and return true, I have to return it. If I do that, what will happen, it will go one by one on these values, and basically it will check if num is greater than, basic 1 is greater than 3, no, false. So basically as soon as you return false, it will not keep into that array this value, like because it, the entire function, this callback function return false, and as soon as you return true, it will keep that value. So let's see that filtered array, let's log, and as you can see we get this 4 5 6 7. So as you can see, we got 4 5 6 7. Now you can make it very simpler also. We don't have to do write that much. We can just say num is greater than 3. This will also work in one line. We can say it. This will also work the same. You can say 4 5 6 7 because this is how arrow function works. If you remember, okay. But remember, the difference is this condition should be true and false. If only this condition is true, then only it will keep that element into the uh, this filtered array. Otherwise, it will reject it. In the map, no matter what you're doing, it was keeping everything that returns. That's the difference between filter and array, filter and map. Now let's come to the reduce. Where reduce is a, you can say is a function which reduce into the single element. Basically, where we want to do sum, or basically keep adding the value, or keep deleting it, or whatever. Like continuously, we are doing it into the array. So that's where this is where reduce comes. So we can say like array dot let result. Let's say I want to add this. I can say array dot reduce. Basically, take two things. First is a callback function, and second is a first value. Where should we start? Usually, it start from 0, and if you don't pass this value, it will take the initial value. So, but it will give us error if the array is empty or something like that. That's why we always pass the first value. But like where should it start? And inside the function, this callback function like take two things, where the result will store, like we can say accumulator or the current value num, and current value. Basically this num represent all of these one by obviously not at one, but first it will take 1, then it will 2, then 3 4, and this accumulator or result we can call it. But I don't want to call result because I already declared here, that's why it keep adding into that. All right, so I can say that accumulator plus no, this is what I can return. So it will start from the accumulator, by default will be 0 because this is what it it does. Otherwise it will take the 1. So if I log the array, what should be the result? Let's see whether it's correct or not. Let me save. Sorry, I was printing the array. I thought what's wrong with the like result. I should print result. Okay, and 28 is the answer. You can calculate. 28 will be the answer. All right. So that's a map filter reduce, and yeah, so that's it. Now let's move to the next question, which is explain strings. Basically tell us about a little bit about string. So what are strings? So the question is, what are strings? And let explain a little bit about string. So you can say something about, like, strings are sequence of characters which represent a text inside double quotation, single quotation, or backtick. So for example, let me just say string. Let name Ajay. This is string. It is a character of sequence inside double quotation. It could be single quotation. It could be backticks. So you can say that. And these are immutable. Immutable meaning I can't do this. Name. By the way, you can access it by using array thing, where indexing, but you can't do this. This is not allowed. Basically, I can't put at the 0th index directly anything. So it is not allowed. And there are certain methods. The first method is split. Basically, what it does is, like, currently if I log, there's Ajay. But if I do this, name is equal to name dot split, and do this, basically, so it will split and build an array of each character. So let's see in action. As you can see, it made an array by comma separate. So it's very famous method. In string we do that, and then we update something, and then we rearrange it. Similar method is join. So this is split, and there's one method called join, and it will join based on the comma. Let me see. Sorry, let me. Name is equal to do this. Right. Now let's see. As you can see, what should I say? Right, by default. So split method splitted it, and we printed it. So it build an array. It make an array of each character by comma separated. And then join method, what it does, it joins the array of strings. So it joins them and build an original array. So this is very famous method. First we will split, then we join it. By doing in middle of that, we can perform our operations. So split and join method are there, and there's one method called slice, that we use an array. Same. This is also, that method also works the same, where we slice it by passing starting and ending index. Ending index should be +1 because it does not go till the end of it. Instead, it stops at one index minus. So make sure you understand that. And there's one method called include, basically, and that does it include or not. So yeah, you can explain these methods to them, and the interview will be happy. All right. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so next question could be like, explain call, apply, or bind. This is a very famous question also. So basically, you can say that sometime you want to control the value of this, and now don't ask me why do you want to control it, because it's JavaScript, and it just sometimes it's frustrated that, you know what, I hope you understand what I mean. So just this is what we can call uh, basically functions in a certain way, and we can bind to the certain objects manually, like which object we want to point to this function. So let me give you an example. So function, let me make a function which is greet, and let me log this dot name. Now this again, I want to point this to dynamically. Sometime you want, so I can do this greet dot call, and I can point to any object. So let's just say there are, let me make two objects, person1, person2. So this object exists, so I can pass inside the person1 object, let so I can pass this person1 into this call method. Now greet, we are passing the same. This is also a way of calling this function, but we can call this using call method also, and this call method takes the first argument as an object. We want to point to this, so this will print Ajay. as you can see here. If I do here 2, then this time this grid method will point to the second object, which is person 2, to Ajay and Vijay. So the method is same, but we are able to call it with the two different data. All right. Now this is not a best example, but you get the idea of what. Now, and one more thing, that we can pass like a argument also. So let me just pass age, and the way we do it, first we pass the object that we want to refer to it, and then we can pass the argument by comma separate. I can say 16, then comma 20. So if I print here, I can use age, and it will print us 16 and 20 like normal function do. All right. And apply is also similar to call method. All I have to do is just apply. The thing is, it takes array of argument. Instead of putting it like a comma separated, we put into the um, array, and it still works the same. So this is called apply. And bind is different. Bind returns the uh, object, sorry, new method basically, which is permanently bind to the this. So for example, if I take bind example, what it will look like is let new grid, and grid dot bind, I will pass person 1, and let me say 26. New grid, I have to call this, and I say 26, as you can see. But this itself didn't do it. It just binded this person 1 to this, and that's it, and then returned a new function, new method, which we stored into the new grid, and then we called it. So this is what bind does. That's it. So that's about call, apply, and bind, you can say, and you can give them with this example also. And yeah, this is how we pass argument, and yes, that's it. Okay, so let's go to the next question. The interviewer might ask you about what are construction functions. Okay, so let's understand about them. So constructor functions are used to create object. Now, why would we need them? Well, in JavaScript or in any programming language, we mostly need to work with objects. So for example, right now we have this way of creating object. We can do this, sorry, not let person, and I can say this, and I can say like, I don't know, name Ajay, and I can have this method say hello, and this could be a function which says log hello Ajay. So this dot name, that's it, right? And I will, let me say person 1. So I can make something like const, or I can use it like this, person 1 dot say hello, it will say my name, hello Ajay. Nothing surprising about it. Now if I have to make another object, so I have to copy paste it, and I can say person 2 dot say hello. Let me change the name here, Vijay, so that you can understand. And hello Vijay, right? But you can see that name property. Let's for a second understand that, okay, I need to change the name. Okay, so that is understandable. But say hello, sorry, I don't know, this is not a say hello function. I need to change, rename it. Say hello. Okay, this say hello function is the exactly same. If you see, so it's like a wasting of memory, right? And we have to hard code all of these things. So for that we have this constructor function in JavaScript, which can help us to create objects for us easily. So for that, what we have to do? Well, nothing. It's a simple function right now, but for simplicity or for distinguish reason, We made when we create constructor functions, we capitalize the first character. So for example, I will say person this, and I will pass the name, and I will say this dot name is equal to name, and this dot say hello is equal to function, which is nothing but a console.log which says hello this dot name. Simple. Now all we have to do is const p1 representing person 1. We have to use new keyword and this person, and this is how we create object. Now we need to pass the name also because this is mandatory, right? So we pass it Ajay. So now the same object is created for us. Now we can use again p dot say hello, and it will print hello Ajay, and as you can see it printed hello Ajay. Now we can create so many objects without copy pasting that code, and it's a little bit more dynamic. Now we can pass dynamic names and all of these things. Now I can say Vijay and p2 and p2 dot hello, it will say Vijay hello Vijay. All I had to do was follow this, create this line new and person, and I just pass the name dynamically. So that is very helpful now, right? We can just use the new keyword, and this construction function is nothing like extraordinary. It's just simply first letter is capital. I mean, you can have a small letter also, and it will not make any difference because but this new keyword is very important. We have to put this new keyword and use this so that we can dynamically point to this object. So use this, and this is how we can do it. So that's it about constructor functions. So this is how you can give them this example. You can explain them problem, and then you can explain using the example. This is constructor function. All right. Okay. So let's talk about prototype. And interviewer might ask you something like, okay, explain prototype chaining, or they can ask you explain prototype inheritance. They can form this question in like different way, but in the end they uh, are expecting from you that whether you know how JavaScript works internally. That's what their intentions is behind that question. Okay, so let's try to understand what prototype and prototype chaining and prototype inheritance looks like, and why do we even need it basically. Okay, so first let's start from the prototype. Well, theoretically, if I have to explain you, prototype is like a property and an object that every object has access to. What does it mean? Well, every object has this property called prototype, and it's an object that store all the shared methods, properties, and link to next prototype. Whatever we want to other objects to be shared, we can store into that prototype. And the reason we do it because it's memory efficient without copying them. Because otherwise we would have to copy everything. I will explain you with an example of what do I mean, but think of it like prototype is a property that every object has access to. What does it do? Well, it stores all the methods, all the properties that we want to share to other objects, or we can store it there basically. Okay, this is prototype. And what does it looks like? So let's try to understand what does it looks like and what do I mean by all of these things. So for that, let's go to the browser. And have you ever worked with array? So how do you make array? Let array, and then we do this sign. This is array, right? Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, right? But watch this. When I do array dot, you see all of these methods, every fill, find index. Where do you think these object like methods are coming from? Because we did not write them. They are coming from class. But in JavaScript, like there's no class and all. It's just every function or method you see here, it is stored into that prototype. And if you don't believe me, let me show you. You can access to it by underscore underscore proto underscore underscore. When you enter, you will see all the methods and properties. As you can see here, all the methods and all the property that I was showing you when we do dot it has access to all of this. This is where it get stored. So whenever we create array, so what basically we are doing is uh, we are trying to access array dot find. When you say that, so it will look into the prototype property. So this is what prototype object that I was saying property looks like, and you can access it by this. This is where all the shared property that I was saying, all the shared property and methods, we can store it here so that other objects can also use them, right? So this is what prototype property looks like. Now learn about something called prototype chaining. This is interesting. As I said, this array.proto has is a property which is like an object which store all the methods, right? But this object also has a prototype. And if you go down here, one by one, here, I hope you can see it, right? So this is, look at, this is also an object which is a prototype property, which is a prototype, and it also has these method constructor and has own properties, all of this thing. And if you go down here, you also see one more proto. So you go click on that and you expand this, and this also has one of more like a prototype, and same method constructor has one property, all of this happening, going, and you see one more proto, and this is null. So this is looks like a, this is not looks like, this is what we call prototype chaining. See how many prototype object we had. One which is like a top level, by the way, we say, if we end up seeing here, which means we have to, on the like top of the prototype chaining, or on the bottom, you can say whatever you want, but this is like a base level. And then one above, this is proto, which we started from here, right? Second level, and this third level. So we have three prototype properties which every object has. As I said, every object has its own prototype property. So this proto is object, as you can see here. It has also its own prototype property, which is here. This also has some methods and all, and this object also has a prototype property, which store another object, and this object also has prototype, which is, by the way, null, which means now there's no further going from here. So this is what it looks like, prototype chaining. And the useful thing about is that when we call array dot some method, like for example, when I do array dot find, so what basic, sorry, array dot find. So what basically it does is it tries to find this find method into this array class, basically array object. Now let me show you with an example in code. So when I say this say hello function, what it try to do is, who's calling p2? Does p2 has this say hello method? So this is how it gets created. And yes, if we log hit p2, you will see that we have this name property and say hello function, right? So basically we are saying, so in this object we found that p2 object has this say hello method, so it will call directly from here. If for some reason I called this method like sfdsf, let's just say, for some, I don't know, for some reason, so what it will do is, instead of giving immediately error, what it will do is it will check whether this object has this method who is calling p2. So does p2 object has this method say hello? So for example, we can see that it does not. So what it will do, it will go to its prototype property and it will try to see there, just like this. Like I'm showing you an example, it will do something like array dot underscore underscore proto underscore underscore. It will go here and it will see whether this method that we are trying to call exists here. So it will look into this, that object, not into array object. This is a different object. So it will look into that array's prototype and it will not find that, it's not find. Then it will go its parents, like this prototype's object also, and it will check, does this exist? No. Here, no, doesn't exist. So then it will see this proto, it will go inside that also. Then it will see whether that method exists here also. No, it's not. Then it will go here, but here it will see that null object, null value, which means we have looked into our prototype chain from the object itself to its parent to its parent to its parent to top level, till the null value, meaning null is the top level object in JavaScript. So we have looked till that and we did not find that method into its prototype property, prototype object basically. So then it will give us error that if I run it, it will say that SDSH is not a function. So this is what prototype chaining looks like, where JavaScript try to find the method into its prototype objects. It will keep going until it end up on the null object, which is a top level object. All right. So this is what prototype chaining looks like. Now let me show you uh, what prototype inheritance looks like. No, but let me show you why do we even need it, like prototype. What does it do? It what problem it's solving. Let's try to understand that. Okay. So when we create objects using this method, like this person constructor, so what happening in that is that let's just log this one into p1, and first let me just comment it out. So you will see that this say hello function is getting copied 2 times. Now name variable, we can understand that name will be different for each object, right? Or it won't be different, but you get the idea that name might be different for like each person. But the hello function job is simple, like it's literally function is same. So this function is same, we did not change anything in that, but still we are copying into the memory. So it's a memory wastage, and that is why I said the reason we have prototype is because so that we can save memory and store, like use efficiently the memory. So this is where prototype comes handy. And how do we solve this problem, like so that we can use the shallow but we don't repeat it? So this is where we do that. What are method, shared method? Remember I said in prototype we store the shared methods and properties. So we know that this say hello function is shared, which will be shared by every object. So what we will do, we will take this method, and as I said, everything in JavaScript is an object. So even function also are object. So what we will do is we will do this person dot prototype dot say hello. Basically this is how we store that property into object, right? If you remember, like dot notation. So into that prototype we want to store this say hello function, and this is the definition of say hello function. So what now will happen is that when I try to log, something interesting will happen. Here we don't see say hello function anymore into these objects. We are creating object using this new person same, but we don't see that person here. But interesting thing is that even if I do this now, say hello, I will be able to do that. Say hello meaning who is calling P1, and P1 is Ajay. So P1, so it should say hello Ajay, and as you can see hello Ajay is printing. Still it's accessing them, even though in this object we don't have that say hello function. So how is it working? Well, remember I told you about prototype chaining. First, it tried to look say hello into this P1 object, which is this. It will look whether this say hello method exists into this object itself. No, it doesn't. So what it will do? It will look into that. It's a prototype. How do we have access to that? Well, I told you that P1 dot underscore underscore proto underscore underscore. If I log the if I log that, you will see that it contains say hello method. So it will try to look into this prototype prototype object, whether this is where it exists. Yes, then it will call it and it will print it. If it didn't find here, then it will go one more further by doing dot underscore underscore proto. This will keep doing until the prototype value is null. So it will keep doing and keep finding whether in this object exists the method that we are trying to call. Okay, so this is how it's able to do that, and this is handy. And the interesting thing is this hello method is only created once in the memory here. That's it, and we can able to use it into multiple objects so that we saved the memory. So this is the best use case of prototype, and this is prototype chaining. Through prototype chaining we are able to access it. So now I can do this p2 also without, and it will be able to say hello Ajay, hello Vijay, hello Ajay, hello Vijay. This is how it's happening. Again, it's checking into this object whether do we have say hello method here. No, we don't. So it will go to its parent prototype object, and it will look here, and they will will we find the say hello because we stored into this person's prototype say hello method, right? So it will find there. So it will take that method here, it will call it on this p2 object, and this p2 will be point to this, and this dot name in the p2 is Vijay. So there will be hello Vijay, right? I hope you are able to understand this thing. Okay, this is how this prototype chaining and prototype work. Now let's try to understand prototype inheritance. Okay, that is interesting. So let me clear this for you first. And now it's good and all, but what we can do is, now let's just say for, let me remove it, name and say hello and good. Now what do we do is, let me make an constructor function user, and I want to use this person. Why do I want to use? Because a person will have a name hello, and it will be using that method. Like for some reason, this user function, that constructor function that I am making, this object will be having this same functionality. I mean, it will also have the extra functionality like logged in. Let's just, for some reason, I have this logged in property, which is true by default. Okay, so we have this functionality, but we know that I need this name and say hello. Now, obviously, in this example, you might say, Ajay, we can just create this name duplicate here. Like I can just create this dot name here also. Sure, you can do it, but I'm just trying to show you the inheritance where we want to inherit some other object into other object. This is what inheritance means, right? So that we are able to inherit from other objects. And in this example, it doesn't make sense. It's a very simple example, but you will get the idea that how do we access uh, different objects, methods, and properties into different object. So here, for some, let's just assume that in this user, we are going to be needing this name as say hello method and this name property, and we don't want to repeat it. So we can use them because we know that we have this into our code and we want to use it. So how do we do it? That's the question. Okay. Okay. So what we will do is, again, we will use the prototype. So what we need is, into this users prototype, again we can use it like in a, we can store it in some property also, but we don't want to do it. Remember the prototype property that every object has, when whatever we store there, it will be stored only once in the memory. So we want to efficiently use that. So what we can do is user dot prototype
is equal to person dot
prototype. We can do that also, but we don't. The reason is because these both will be represent, like this is how object works, right? If I do this, what am I doing it is that I'm referencing the address of this prototype object. So if I change here next, like for example, when I go here and if I do certain change into this prototype, then it will be changed into person's constructor also, and that is what we don't want to do it, because we want to, the inheritance, the way inheritance work is, we want to use this functionality into this, not this functionality into that. Okay, so we want to say that we want to use this functionality, and we can also add custom functionality into user also. So we don't, so that's why we need to create another object, and the reason, the way we do it is object dot create creat, and we want to create that object based on this person dot prototype. I hope you know how does this work, right? It will create a new object like fresh object, and it will store into the prototype. So now whatever method and property that this person has, we have stored into the user prototype. So if I log and go and check, I will be able to see those into name and say hello method into the prototype, and I can use it also whenever I make a variable, right? So for example, let me construct new const users and new user, and let's just pass name here. Name will be Ajay, and let's take name here, and now we are passing name here. So let me just call this person class, and the reason I'm doing call, let me explain you this, and let me pass the name. The reason I'm doing it because I need to use say hello, and say hello need this dot name. So if you don't assign, if you don't call this, so which means this object was never created. So when we try to access say hello, it will give us undefined, that this node name doesn't exist. So we want to call this person also into this user. Okay. So this is how we can call customize label by using call method, where this will be binded to this u. All right, that's what we are doing here. And this person will initialize this constructor function, which will initialize this dot name property, so that when we access hello, it will be able to understand, okay, this dot name is where do this dot name is coming from. All right, so when I do this u dot say hello, I should be able to say hello Ajay. Although remember, I did not created say hello in here into this user constructor, but I created the object based on that. But what I did is I stored use into user prototype is that person prototype object. Entire object I stored into user prototype. So what does that mean? And what is into the person's prototype? Remember, say hello method. All right. So let's see. So I have stored into the user prototype, and I know that for a fact that inside a prototype I only have to store it only once, and it will not waste the memory. So now when I say u.shallow, it will check into this object, meaning into this object, that is there this shallow method exist. It will say no, it doesn't exist. So it will go into its prototype here, and it will see whether their shallow method exists, and we will be able to see that yes, there this prototype method exists, sorry, this shallow method exists. So it will call it, and boom, let me just say 1 2 3, and hello Ajay is printed. I didn't know. So this is, we are using this methods property, sorry, this constructor functions property and methods into this constructor, sorry, this constructor method. I did not. Now we extra also we added extra functionality like logged in. So I can, of course, I can access that logged in, and I can log it here. I can add custom methods also here, or I can do here prototype dot is logged in, and this will be method. I can do all of the like extra functionality I can add, and here I can say log I will say this dot is logged in this property return whatever the value is. So I can here say is logged in. I can call is logged in method. So this is logged in will be found into this prototype, and I can but when I well, first let's check true undefined hello. Sorry, I don't have to log because it's not returning anything. So you can say true and hello j, because the property is set to true. If I make it false, it will be false. So we added this method logged in into this user prototype, but let me show you with an example that const p1 is equal to new person, and that is Vijay. P1 dot is logged in won't we find if I call is logged in onto this P1, which is created based on this person. So we can say that this is how inheritance works, right? Because this is logged in exists only on this user constructor, but on not on this person's prototype or anywhere on this prototype chain, it won't find there. So it should give us error. So this is how it should work, right? Parents property and methods we want to use into child, not child's methods and property parents should have access to. So what we are trying to have this method is child's method for in this example, right? Because this is what we did into users prototype. We stored persons dot prototype, which means whatever the methods and property that has person has, we stored into that prototype, users prototype, and we additionally add this is logged in method only to the user prototype. So it should but we are creating object onto the based on this information, person's constructor, using person's constructor, and we did not we don't want this is loading to get access to that, and so it should give us error. So 1 2 3, and it is giving us error. It's printed our pl is logged is not a function, because what it did, it tried to look into this p1 object, which is based on creating this into this, that whether there exist is logged in method. No, it doesn't. So it will go into this its prototype, which will come here. So it will see is there is logged in method exist. No, it doesn't. So it will go its also prototype. There will it try to find whether there exist or not, and it won't find anywhere till the null value come, and then it's giving us the error, and that is what we wanted, right? So that is what inheritance looks like, where we inherited person's methods into this user's method, user's constructor. This is how we should do it. And if you explain this much to the interviewer, I'm sure they will be pretty much happy. They will know, okay, this person knows. I'm sure this is not the most optimal way to do it, by the way, but you get the idea. Whether how do we manipulate it, what does it mean to, inheritance prototype, for what reason we use it, because it's memory efficient. If we store whatever there will be only one instance of that, and we can utilize it into all the objects. All right, so that is it about your prototype chaining and prototype inheritance. Now let's move to the next question, which is object oriented programming. By the way, there's nothing like object oriented programming into classes on all of these things into the JavaScript, because it's just a syntactic sugar. Because whatever we did in the last question about prototype and prototype inheritance, this is what JavaScript still uses under the hood. But it's good way to write a code, more organized way of writing code. Okay, so let's start from there. So the interviewer might ask you, explain OOP into the JavaScript, or maybe they say explain classes and objects into JavaScript. Basically the idea is to they are trying to understand what OOP concepts are. So you can say classes and objects, inheritance and encapsulations, and all of the different things, by the way, right? Abstractions, and that's it. So there are like concepts, like 4 pillar of programming, object programming concept. And you can start by saying, okay, that it doesn't exist into the JavaScript, but it's syntactic sugar. This is what they call it professionally. Like it's a syntactic sugar, meaning it just gives you the feel that we are writing code into the like proper object oriented way, but we are not. It's at the end of the day, it's still assigning all those methods and properties to the prototype that we were doing manually there. But that code looks a little bit messy. I know we have to deal with this prototype and all of these things. We don't want to do that. We want to look like a where we can feel good, or basically looks good. So how do you do it? So let's start. So this is how you can start by saying, okay, so let's use the keyword class and class name. So let's just say person. I'm just starting that same example, person. You make constructor. I'm sure constructor method, you all know constructor. What does this constructor do? Constructor is a function method that will run when we try to create an instant or object of any class. All right, so this is the first method that will run. So we pass name and age for simplicity, and this is dot name is equal to name, this dot age is equal to age. We can write method here, so we can say hello, and we can say log hello my friend, friend, and we need to do this dot name, and that's it. We can write as many methods as we want here, copy pasting. So this is, and the way you use it is simple, const p new keyword and class name, and we will pass Ajay and 25. And the way we use it, p dot, we can say hello, and it will print the name for us. Sorry, it will print the message, hello my friend Ajay. That's it. It's literally simple. Constructor, say hello method, and this is class syntax. That's it. So if you explain that this is what this is what object looks like, and this is constructor, this is say hello. That's nothing fancy about it. If you talk about inheritance, where let's so inheritance is also fairly simple. Let's remove this. So let's just say I want to use this say hello methods and of this thing to this person class. So let me make another class user. Again, I'm taking the same example. If I want to invoke that class, I can do it. Otherwise, I can just start using, but I need to do this class user. The difference is this extends and the class that we want to extend person. So this is init, and this is the we need to do this. That we are saying is that class user extends class person. Right? Again, we are making constructor. In constructor, we need name and age because we need to pass through here, and we need to call super, and we will pass name and age. And let me make a variable that you new user, not variable but an object, and I should pass Vijay 23. So as I said, I did not created any methods hello into this user class, did I did not, right? I just did extend person. This is what syntax looks like, where we say extend the person class, which is this, and this constructor and this super, what super does is it passes the necessary values to the, it calls the basically the parent class constructor, which is this, because we have to set this name and age, so we have to pass through super. This super, what super does, it will call this constructor method, so that when it will call and it will pass name and age, so name and age should be set, so that we can, when you use a hello method, it will be set into the memory. All right. So if the this is how inheritance works, then I should be able to say hello my friend Vijay. All right, and I should be, and as you can see, hello my friend Vijay, and this is how we use. uh, Again, this is a syntactic sugar. Otherwise, behind the scene, what it is doing is that it is assigning this person to users prototype. That this is how we did it, right? And we called this instead of super, what we did was we called the person constructor method and passed this manually and passed the arguments. All right. So that's it. That is it, guys. This is class, this is object, this is inheritance, and yeah, that is it about revision, guys. This is your object oriented programming. You can create anything, and you understand about super keyword. It calls the parent class constructor method. All right. So that's it.